The Peerless Prince and the Seven Kings. Long ago, in the ancient land of India, a brilliant young prince named Asadisa studied at the great university of Takshashila. Under the guidance of a wise old teacher, he mastered the three Vedas and became the finest archer the world had ever known. His arrows flew so true that people called him the Peerless Prince, for no one could match his extraordinary skill. When Prince Asadisa's father, the old king, grew very ill, he called his eldest son to his bedside. With trembling hands, he placed his heavy jeweled crown before the prince. "My dear son, you are the wisest and bravest in the kingdom," the old king whispered. "I name you as the next king. Rule well and protect our people." The prince knelt beside his father, his heart heavy with love and sadness. But Prince Asadisa had no desire for power or riches. "Dear father, I do not wish to be king," he said gently. "Let my younger brother Brahmadatta wear the crown instead." The court gasped in surprise. No prince had ever refused the throne before. And so young Brahmadatta, nervous and wide-eyed, was crowned king. The golden crown sat a little too large upon his small head, but he tried his best to look brave. At first, King Brahmadatta was grateful to his brother. But two jealous servants crept close to the young king and filled his ears with poisonous lies. "Your brother only pretends he does not want the throne," they hissed. "He is planning to steal your crown." The young king's eyes grew wide with fear. Though the lies were not true, Brahmadatta foolishly believed every word and sent soldiers to capture his own brother. Prince Asadisa learned of the soldiers just in time and escaped into the night. He traveled far across rivers and mountains until he reached a foreign kingdom. The wise foreign king had heard tales of the Peerless Prince and his legendary skill. "Show me what you can do," the king said with a warm smile, "and I shall give you a place of honor in my court." The prince bowed gratefully, glad to have found a safe home. The day of the great demonstration arrived. Before a huge crowd, Prince Asadisa drew his magnificent bow and fired an arrow straight up into the sky. It soared higher and higher until it nearly touched the cloud. Then, quick as lightning, he fired a second arrow that struck the first one mid-air with a mighty crack. The first arrow reversed its path, sliced a ripe mango from a nearby tree, and the prince caught both the mango and both arrows in his hands. The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers of amazement. Meanwhile, back in the Old Kingdom, terrible news arrived. 7 powerful enemy kings had joined their armies together and surrounded the land. King Brahmadatta was terrified. His soldiers were no match for 7 armies. With no one else to turn to, the young king swallowed his pride and sent a desperate message to his brother. "Please forgive me and come save our kingdom. Without you, all is lost." Prince Asadisa's heart held no anger toward his brother. He rode back at once and crept close to the enemy camp under cover of darkness. The 7 kings sat at a grand dining table, laughing and boasting about how they would divide the conquered kingdom. Suddenly, an arrow whistled through the air and thudded into the center of their table. Wrapped around its shaft was a message from the Peerless Prince. "Leave now, or the next arrow will not miss." The 7 kings turned white with terror and fled into the night with all their armies. With the 7 kings gone and the kingdom saved, King Brahmadatta fell to his knees before his brother. "I was foolish to listen to liars and send you away," he cried. "Can you ever forgive me?" Prince Asadisa smiled warmly and lifted his brother to his feet. "You are my brother, and I will always protect you," he said. "I do not need a crown to love my family." The whole kingdom celebrated with music, flowers, and feasting, thankful that true strength had saved them all. Moral: true strength lies not in seeking power, but in using your gifts to protect those you love. The king who would not fight. In the ancient city of Varanasi, there ruled a king known far and wide as King Goodness. He was generous and kind, giving food to the hungry and treating every person with fairness. His people loved him dearly, and his kingdom was peaceful and prosperous. Under his wise rule, no one in the land went without. But not everyone was grateful. One of the king's ministers had been caught misusing his power and was banished from the kingdom. Bitter and vengeful, the exiled minister traveled to the neighboring kingdom of Kosala. There, he whispered into the ear of the mighty king of Kosala. "The king of Varanasi is weak," he hissed. "He would never fight back. You could conquer his kingdom without any trouble at all. The king of Kosala was cautious. He decided to test if this was true. He sent bands of raiders to attack a village on the border of Varanasi. The raiders were captured and brought before King Goodness. The wise king asked why they had done such terrible things. "We are poor and desperate," they said. Instead of punishing them, King Goodness gave them money and food, and set them free. The king of Kosala tested again and again, each time sending raiders closer to the heart of Varanasi. Each time, King Goodness responded with mercy, never raising a sword. The exiled minister smiled wickedly. "You see," he told the king of Kosala, "he is too kind to fight. His kingdom is yours for the taking." The king of Kosala marched toward Varanasi with a mighty army of soldiers and war elephants. When word reached the city, the brave warriors of Varanasi rushed to their king. "Let us fight, Your Majesty. We are the fiercest warriors in all of India. We can defeat them." But King Goodness shook his head calmly. "No one shall suffer because of me," he said firmly. And he ordered the city gates to be opened wide. The invading army marched through the open gates without a single arrow fired. The king of Kosala seized the throne. Following his cruel advisor's suggestion, he ordered King Goodness and his loyal ministers to be taken to the dark cemetery outside the city walls. There, the soldiers buried them up to their necks in deep pits and left them to the mercy of the night. Night fell, and the cemetery grew cold and dark. Hungry jackals crept closer, their yellow eyes glowing in the moonlight. But when the lead jackal lunged at King Goodness, the brave king bit down hard on the creature's throat. The frightened jackal thrashed and howled wildly, loosening the earth around the king. Using all his strength, King Goodness pulled himself free from the pit and then, one by one, rescued each of his buried ministers. Two powerful ogres who lived in the cemetery had been watching everything. They were deeply impressed by the king's extraordinary courage and unshakable virtue. "Mighty king," they said, bowing before him, "we wish to help you." Using their magic, the ogres conjured fine robes, delicious food, and scented water. They even brought the king of Kosala's own royal sword. The ogres magically carried King Goodness through the night sky to the sleeping chamber of the king of Kosala. There, on the stolen throne's royal bed, the usurper lay snoring peacefully. King Goodness struck him on the belly with the flat of the sword. The king of Kosala woke with a terrified gasp and found himself face to face with the very man he had buried alive just hours before. Trembling with fear and shame, the king of Kosala fell to his knees. "How is this possible?" he whispered. King Goodness told him everything, and the invading king realized his terrible mistake. He begged forgiveness, returned the kingdom, and punished the treacherous advisor. "Perseverance in virtue will always triumph," said King Goodness with a gentle smile. "Doing good gives the best result, even when all seems lost." And from that day, the two kings were friends forever. Moral: patience and virtue will always triumph over cruelty and force. The 100th Prince. Long ago in the great city of Benares, old King Brahmadatta had 100 sons. The youngest and smallest of them all was Prince Gamani. While his 99 older brothers were tall, strong, and eager for power, little Gamani was quiet and kind. Each prince had a teacher, and Gamani's teacher was the wisest man in all the land. When the princes grew up, the king gave each one a province to rule. But the wise teacher whispered to young Gamani, "Do not ask for a province. Stay here with your father. Tell him you wish to serve him." Gamani obeyed, and the old king was deeply touched by his youngest son's devotion. The wise teacher had a plan. "Now, young prince, you must win the hearts of all the people in the city," he said. First, Gamani asked his father for an old park, and used its flowers and fruits to make gifts for the city's important leaders. Then he went from street to street, sharing food and coins with the poor. He cared for the palace servants with kindness, made sure the soldiers were well fed, and welcomed visitors from faraway kingdoms with warm hospitality. He treated every merchant fairly and honestly. Day after day, the little prince worked tirelessly, and soon everyone in Benares loved him dearly. Years passed, and the old king grew very ill. As he lay on his royal bed for the last time, his ministers gathered close and asked, "When you are gone, dear king, to whom shall we give the white umbrella of kingship? The old king smiled weakly and whispered, all 100 of my sons deserve the kingdom. But give the white umbrella to the one your hearts desire most. With those wise final words, the great King Brahmadatta closed his eyes forever. The ministers looked at one another and all agreed without a moment's hesitation they wanted Prince Gamani. 7 days after the funeral, the ministers held the great coronation ceremony. They raised the magnificent white umbrella, the sacred symbol of kingship, high above little Prince Gamani's head. The boy who had been the smallest and humblest of 100 princes was now the king of Benares. The people of the city cheered and threw flowers. Long live King Gamani, they cried with genuine love. The wise teacher stood nearby, smiling proudly at the young king he had guided so carefully. But trouble was coming. When the 99 older brothers heard that their baby brother had been crowned king, they were furious. How dare they choose the smallest and youngest over us, they roared. The eldest brother, Prince Upasartha, gathered all 98 other brothers and their armies. They marched on Benares and surrounded the great city with thousands of soldiers. A fierce message was sent to King Gamani, give up the throne, little brother, or we will take it by force. Young King Gamani read the message with a heavy heart. King Gamani rushed to his wise teacher. What shall I do? My brothers want war. Should I prepare our soldiers to fight? The wise teacher shook his head gently. No, my king. You must not fight your own brothers. Instead, divide your father's treasure into 100 equal portions. Send 99 portions to your brothers with this message: I will share everything I have, but I will never help you harm the people of this city whom I have come to love. Gamani trusted his teacher completely and did exactly as he said, sending carts loaded with gold to each brother. When the carts of gold arrived at the brothers' camp, they were astonished. Prince Upasartha, the eldest, called all his brothers together. Listen, my brothers, he said, his stern face slowly softening. Our youngest brother could have fought us, but instead he shares his treasure freely. He would rather give up his wealth than see a single person hurt. What kind of king does that? A truly great one. Even father said to give the kingdom to the one our hearts desire. Perhaps the people were right to choose Gamani after all. One by one, the brothers nodded in agreement. They lowered their weapons and accepted Gamani as their king. The brothers returned the treasure and stayed for a wonderful month of feasting and celebration before returning peacefully to their own provinces. And because all 100 princes stood united, no enemy in all the world dared to threaten the kingdom of Benares. King Gamani called his wise teacher before the whole court and bowed deeply. Everything I have, I owe to you, he said. You taught me that patience, kindness, and generosity can win what no army ever could. And the people of Benares lived in peace and happiness for many, many years, always remembering their beloved 100th prince who won a kingdom without a single battle. Moral: patience, kindness, and generosity can win what no army ever could. True leadership is earned by serving others, not by demanding power.